Alright chat, so in the last couple of videos, I've been working on my Bloxburg High School. As you can see, I've been working so hard that my arms got super huge. But you guys seem to really like the high school, or you guys were just kind of fascinated that I actually finished a large-scale build, because that never happens on my channel. So yeah, today I've put together a compilation, kind of. Not really a compilation, but just a giant tutorial list of how to build some of the things in my high school. Call them build hacks if you may, but I kind of engineered them myself, so I don't know if you can really call them build hacks because they're not that special. But yeah, let me know what you think. And just a fair warning before any of this starts, you're probably gonna need advanced placement and the transform plus tool for this. So yeah, just a fair warning. All right, so first things first, before any of this actually gets started, I just want you guys to remember that there are items in the game now that do belong in a school. So before you go trying to make a ruler or a calculator or pencils or books with basic shapes, do try to remember that these exist and you don't have to spend your time actually making those, because a certain someone wasn't me, tried making a calculator and didn't realize a calculator existed. So that was fantastic. All right, so first object on the list is a nice simplistic desk. It literally cannot get more simplistic than this, unless I'm building it. And I am building it, so good luck. Right, so I really hope this is not sped up way too much for you guys, but I'm just gonna go over what exactly I'm doing. Right now, I'm making the base for the desk, and rule of thumb is to keep your basic shapes kind of resized to 2.75 or 2.25 or anything 0.25 or 0.75, because that makes it easier for you to line up shapes. I don't know if that's just basic math or something I figured out myself, but yeah, that's just a tip. But anyways, this desk is just a bunch of copied and pasted basic shapes. It's structurals and basic shapes to make a frame, and then you put a slab on top of it, and that's pretty much it. There's nothing else to really describe this desk. I really didn't need to make a desk either, but it just seemed like something we needed in Bloxburg. Like, I feel like there's no school desk in Bloxburg for you to use, in a high school especially, so I kind of did have to make this. I think the desk itself took up 0.25 plot data, so it's not all that expensive in terms of that, but the final cost did come out to like 1.5k, 1.2k, so you should be wary of that. There's probably a way that you could build this without transform plus. You could probably just move shapes around and see if they kind of float on top of each other, or you could just completely use structurals to do this, but it just kind of shows why transform plus costs what it costs. But yeah, here's a simplistic desk for you to use in your high schools. All right, next thing we're gonna build now that we have a desk is a printer. What can go wrong with a printer? It's super simple, just a couple shapes, bang bam boom, there you go. And I really wasn't lying with that. To build this printer, all you need is a stack of cutting boards, and then you want to put this structural on top of it and then resize it for, you know, the paper collection tray. And then next you want to stack a bunch of papers on top of it just to make it seem like there's papers coming out of it. And then for all of the fine details like the holes, the buttons, you could just add more structurals to do that. I don't know, I feel like making custom items is just the process of layering on other structurals and basic shapes to make like the little things. And then to make the paper input system, you know that thing that kind of collects the paper at the top of the printer? All I had to do was put another smaller cutting board and then put another basic shape, no, structural, and then I rotated that to make it seem like it would kind of like guide the paper into the cutting board. And then that was basically it for the printer. It really wasn't all that, and it was really cheap too. I think it only cost like $750, or maybe I'm lying and it's like $1,000. I actually don't remember, but it's definitely one of the simplest printers I've seen on Bloxburg, and I think it's a good addition to the school. All right, let's bump up the difficulty level and move on to a photocopier. It doesn't really look like a photocopier, but you can tell what it is, so I'm just gonna teach you how to make it anyways. You know, it's just a little more difficult than the printer, just a little. So just to throw this out there, it did take me 28 minutes in real time to build this, so fair warning before you actually start making this, or if you choose to make this. But basically any of these custom items start with a basic shape on the bottom, just so I can copy and paste it. It's really nice to have everything so it's copy and pasteable. So as you can see here, I'm putting all the wheels on top of this transparent glass piece, and unfortunately this thing is a little bit floating or off the ground, but that's okay. It's not very noticeable, I think. And this was actually me building it for the first time. I didn't put this in the high school, but I definitely would have if I could have. You know, it's one of those things that I build off the main plot, and then I just wish I could just copy and paste it over to another plot. See, this is why they should add in Bloxburg Bloxburg a blueprint system where you could just save maybe 5-10 blueprints in your account, and then you can just use those blueprints universally on any plot. That would make life so much easier, especially for trees, and maybe just moving items from plot to plot. But I don't know how hard that's gonna be to implement. But anyways, back to building the printer, or sorry, the photocopier. I don't know what the difference is exactly, but one's just bigger and one's smaller. That's all I know. Anyways, what you're watching right now is me trying to use 100% of my brain just to make this photocopier look at least semi-decent, or at least realistic, so at least people can tell that it's a photocopier. And I think as we get closer and closer to the finished product, it does turn out that way, so I'm kind of happy with that. The process for a lot of these school items is actually just a bunch of cutting boards stacked on each other, and I completely forgot cutting boards could be used for like, you know, beveled edges. You know how rectangles have pointy edges, and like sometimes you can fillet them so you have like rounded rectangles? That's basically what I mean. And honestly, I think it's fitting for a lot of these. So yeah, I think the bulk of the time that I spent building this photocopier was on this main body part. The rest of it was just, you know, the small gimmicks like the paper collector tray, and then maybe the screen that you use. I don't know, at my university campus we have this photocopier machine, and it's kind of activated by this little fob that we get at the beginning of the year, so you can log in and tap on that. And I didn't really add that, but this thing's very complex to work in real life, or maybe I'm just stupid. Probably the second answer, but it is how it is. I'm just gonna let the speed build run in the background, and you can ignore me if you don't want to listen to what I'm saying. But I swear, printers are so hard to set up, especially the HP ones, and HP ones are among one of the better ones to set up. Like they don't give me too bad of a time, but printers, they do not connect. They do not cooperate. Anytime I get a new printer, or I try to set up a new printer, or try to help someone set up a printer, it does not cooperate. I don't know if that's just me, but last week I got a printer and it just straight up did not work. Like it would not connect, and these things never connect. I've never had a good history with printers, but they look so cool. I don't know how they work. They're so cool. I love printers. It's a love-hate relationship. But anyways, back to building the photocopier. I got the main body done, and then I also got the paper collection tray done. Now I'm making a bunch of drawers so you can stuff a bunch of different sized papers in, like A4, letter size, 11 by 17s, intellectual paper stuff like that. I don't know if there are any paper enthusiasts. Yeah, you get what I'm saying. I am not a paper enthusiast, by the way. I just know my papers. But anyways, I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit because I spent quite a bit just questioning what the heck this was supposed to look like. So then I continued with adding this little thing at the top of the printer because I think it works as a photocopier like that. Honestly, I've never used it as a photocopier. I've only used it as a printer, but I know it has a bunch of these buttons and I don't know what they do. No wonder they only let the students use the normal printers in high school, because I wouldn't expect them to understand how these things work. Heck, I don't even think teachers know how these things work fully. They're like several thousands of dollars, and they do, actually they're kind of useful. I don't know why I'm hating on these. Anyways, the last thing we have to build for this thing is the little screen that you interact with, and to do that I've used a cutting board and then a basic shape for the monitor part, and then I just basically rotated that, transformed it down to where it's supposed to be, and that's pretty much it. That's the printer for you. Unfortunately, it does cost a whopping $21,000 for just one printer, but honestly I think that's a pretty valid price. If you look up photocopier on like maybe Staples or Walmart, actually I don't think they cost 21K, but they're definitely in the K's. On a real note, let's build something a little more basic, like a microscope, because you see those in schools very often, especially when you're analyzing cells or whatnot. Plus it looks pretty cool. So to start out, I'm gonna use another cutting board because cutting boards have those really nice rounded edges. And then on top of that, I'm just gonna build up with basic shapes to kind of act as the arm that holds the magnifier, and then to build the little forklift things to hold the petri dishes. I'm gonna use a bunch of structurals and just transform them all over the place. I'm pretty sure you can also do this without the transform tool. You just gotta kind of fiddle with it until it happens. But if you can't get the two little forklift arms, then I guess that's okay. You can tell that it's a microscope even by the single plank that's on there. And then just continuing upwards, so we get to the point where you can kind of like look down with an arm. We're just gonna use some more basic shapes to extend that. And then for the actual magnifier higher part of it, I'm just gonna use a bunch more basic shapes and then just resize them to make like a little telescope that sits on top of the arm. Chat, I know it's not a telescope, I'm just trying to describe what it is. I completely forgot how to label the parts of a microscope. I know, it's such a vital skill that I've lost, but oh well. The rest of the microscope is pretty simple. It's just a bunch more tubes on top of tubes on top of more tubes, and then for the 3 different magnifiers, I just use more structurals to kind of rotate around to make that little triangle shape. Chat, I want an honest opinion or a kind of rating from a scale of 1 to 10. How difficult are these build hacks to you? And am I being too complicated with some of this stuff? Are some of the things too hard to understand? I mean, to me, honestly, it just seems like a bunch of, if you dissect it correctly, you'll understand where things go and how things go together. It's like building Legos, but without instructions. But anyways, here we are capping off the microscope with this little half sphere, just to give it a little more roundness, and then finally coloring the thing so it looks at least semi-decent, or so that it doesn't look like a jumbled mess of other objects and shapes. And now the next thing we're gonna build are these lockers. Very simple, and yeah, I don't know how to describe them. They're just lockers. So yeah, once again, we're starting with another basic shape, and we're gonna resize that until it's an interval of 0.25 or 0.75, so that way we can get basic shapes on the edges without having to really try to line them up with transform tool. One day you guys will understand what I mean by that, just maybe not today, because I don't even know how to explain that. But if you understand, that's great. But this custom locker is basically just a box with another basic shape inside it to kind of separate it. It's the most generic locker design that you can come across, and then I just slapped the door on it. There's really nothing to describe. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy watching me build a locker. Also, chat, do you guys ever lock your friends inside your locker? And actually, that's kind of being a bully. I never did that, I swear. But I was definitely a bystander for that, so maybe that makes me a bad person. Anyways, to finish off the locker, I put a vent on the very top of it, and then some structurals on the door, so that way it looks like it has at least a little bit of detail, and then a little handle to pull from. Unfortunately, there's no lock that you can put on it, but that pretty much wraps it up for the lockers. And now, obviously, you can't go wrong with the chalkboard. Once again, very easy to make build hack. Literally includes 5 steps, and you got it. I was really contemplating on whether or not I should speed this up, but it's literally just 3 square paintings and then using structurals to make a frame outside of it, and then finally using another structural to make like a little ledge to put all your markers, chalk. You can make this either a whiteboard or a chalkboard depending on what decals you use, but for me personally, I use the decals that are not loading in just so I can actually paint them, or just use any transparent decal so it stays white. Unfortunately, I don't have any custom decals to make a 3 wide chalkboard or whiteboard, so we're just gonna have to live with this. And now finally, this water fountain, a very innovative piece of art by me. Definitely doesn't look scuffed. Actually, it looks very scuffed. I don't know how to make this any better, but I'm gonna teach you how to build it anyways. So to start off, we're gonna use a box sink because that's the only thing that kind of generates hygiene and looks like it could be a part of a water fountain. And what's great is that you can actually put basic shapes on top of this and make it copy pastable, so it's a win-win object. And the water fountain that I'm building right now does not look like the one I used in the high school. In all honesty, it looks a lot better, but once again, I can't transfer custom objects that I've built onto different plots, so that's a bit unfortunate. So starting with the basin, we're just gonna fill that up just a little more than usual, just so it looks like a water fountain and water doesn't flow exactly into a sink. More of a shallow basin rather than a deep one. And then off to the side, we're gonna add a little solid area to put the little sprinkler that dispenses water. It looks a little scuffed right now because the water just shoots straight up and it makes it look like it's leaking, but I guess that's okay. And then for the rest of the water fountain, I just improvised a little with the water dispenser and a ketchup bottle to make it look like water actually comes out of this thing, so students can fill up their water bottles and whatnot. And then every other detail onwards from this is just to make it look a little more sleek than it is. Like right now, it looks really chunky and it looks like it's just a bunch of squares, cubes that are sticking out of the wall with water coming out of it, like a little water park. Heck, I don't know what I'm saying. It's very late and I'm doing this recording very late again. But yeah, here's a water fountain. Looks pretty good. Definitely much better than the one I used in the school. I wish I could replace it. Bloxburg, please listen to me. If you're watching this video, add a blueprint option, please. I'm begging. And with that, that's pretty much everything that I've built in the high school. And I actually haven't included some of these items, but I really wish I could if I had more plot data. But aside from that, class is dismissed.